Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and good morning. We are delighted to welcome our distinguished panelists, esteemed guests, scholars, and participants to today's seminar, reflecting on China's remarkable socio-economic transformation under the leadership of the Communist Party of China and its growing contributions to global public goods, which is organized in the context of the 105th anniversary of the Communist Party of China. We will begin with a recitation from the Holy Quran.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر.
We are honored to have with us an eminent panel of experts whose insights will enrich today's discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, the story of modern China is one of the most remarkable transformations in the contemporary history. Following the fall of the Qing dynasty in 1911, China endured decades of political instability, social upheaval, national struggle, and resistance against foreign aggression. Amid these challenges, the Communist Party of China, founded on 1st July 1921, emerged as the leading force that united the nation, secured national liberation, and laid the foundation for the People's Republic of China, ending the centuries-old dynastic rule and achieved a historic leap in building a moderately prosperous society in all aspects. Under the leadership of the CPC, China has achieved an extraordinary transformation. Through long-term strategic planning, policy innovation, and a people-centered approach to development, it has lifted hundreds of millions out of poverty, built world-class infrastructure, advanced science and technology, strengthened education and healthcare, and emerged as a major global economic power and a leader in green transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, to understand China's remarkable rise in the 21st century, it is essential to understand the role of the Communist Party of China. Likewise, to understand the Communist Party of China today, one must appreciate the ideas and principles that guide its governance and institutional development. In this regard, President Xi Jinping's thought on party building has become an important framework for the understanding how the party seeks to strengthen its leadership, improve governance, and adapt to the challenges of the rapidly changing world. Over its 105 years of journey, the CPC has continuously evolved through self-assessment, institutional reforms, and long-term strategic planning. It has emphasized discipline, organizational strength, and the ability to respond to new challenges while remaining committed to its development objectives. Today, China is not only pursuing its own development, but also contributing to the global progress through initiatives such as Belt and Road Initiative, the Global Development Initiative, the Global Security Initiative, the Global Civilization Initiative, and the Global Governance Initiative. China seeks to promote connectivity, sustainable development, peace, and international cooperation while advancing the vision of a community with a shared future for mankind. Against this backdrop, today's seminar seeks to explore the CPC's governance philosophy and development model, examine the policy innovations and institutional mechanisms that have driven China's extraordinary transformation, and assess China's evolving role in the global governance and international developments, and to draw practical lessons that may offer valuable insights for Pakistan and other countries of the global South. We hope today's discussion will deepen mutual understanding, inspire meaningful dialogue, and strengthen cooperation between our two countries. So with this introduction, now I would like to invite Ambassador Johar Salim, President IRS, for the opening remarks. Sir.
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. Rana Ehsan Afzal Saab, Special Assistant to the Prime Minister on Commerce. Mr. Shi Yuanqiang, Deputy Head of Mission, Chinese Embassy. Ambassador Masood Khalid, our former ambassador to China, Ambassador Moinul Haq, our former ambassador to China, Professor Gao Jian, Secretary General of Shanghai Academy of Global Governance, distinguished audience, it's such a pleasure and a privilege to talk about what the CCP, or the Communist Party of China, has accomplished over the last 105 years. I was in China recently, and I sat at the table where some great intellectuals 105 years ago just sat informally in a room and founded the Communist Party of China. I traversed the history of the party in some great museums that have been set up there. It was fascinating indeed, the challenges faced by CCP and how the modern China evolved alongside the party itself. Now, what has been accomplished, ladies and gentlemen, in the last century in China? A China that, like so many other countries of Asia, Africa, Latin America, everywhere in the world, had been plagued by the ambitions of the colonial powers. Although China was not ruled directly as British India was, it was fragmented, it was weakened, it was exploited. We all know about the Opium Wars and what was done to China. A whole society was taken to the brink of a disaster because of some greed and avarice that we all witnessed in different fashions. And it was not easy, that journey. It was not easy reuniting the country. It was not easy recasting a society in the mold of development. But what has been accomplished will live in the annals of history forever. 800 million people in China have been brought out of poverty. Never in the history of mankind such a feat has been attempted, what you talk of having been successfully implemented. A country whose per capita income was lower than Pakistan, lower than India, lower than many South Asian countries in the 70s, $156. That was China's per capita. Now it's close to $20,000. In purchasing power parity, it's over $30,000. China is no longer a developing country. China is one of the leading countries in the world. In many sectors, it is only at par with the US. It's ahead of all those colonial powers of yesteryears. It is ahead of everybody else in Asia as well. And I'm talking about the most sophisticated technologies, the emerging technologies. And in other areas, what has been accomplished there? And the first time I visited China was in December 1994. I went in a delegation of the President of Pakistan. And at that time, the great leader, Deng Xiaoping, was alive, and our delegation met him. And it was so impressive, like his words of wisdom just seemed so surreal. So I saw China then when it was at the cusp of a great journey of development. And in the last 3 years, I've been to China 3 times perhaps, and I've seen where China is today. The remarkable transformation that we witnessed there. And the facets of it are just bewildering. For instance, just 10 years ago, Beijing was the most polluted city in the world. I was then Additional Foreign Secretary for Administration. And I was getting requests from our embassy there, some diplomats whose children were suffering from some respiratory issues because of that. And they wanted relocation. And just in 10 years, this time I went to Beijing, its air quality index was better than London, better than Paris, better than Berlin, better than many the biggest American cities. It was just 19, which is just amazing. That transformation brought about pollution, you all know it's not easy. We are suffering from that. Our cities are now some of the worst polluted in the world. And we know what it means, what it means to your lifestyles, what it means to the quality of life. Similarly, in technologies, where China was not even present in the scenario in any way, China is a world leader now. But what most impressed me was the order I saw there, the safety I saw there on the streets at any time of the day. The fact that people were going about their daily tasks and their daily leisure activities in a way which symbolized freedom and happiness. And all that has been done while living in a system which has been maligned so much over the years. What is at the root of this amazing transformation? What is at the root of this fantastic journey of progress and prosperity? I would come up with one word, and that is the biggest lesson we can learn from China's development. Meritocracy. I was so pleased to learn that if you have to join the CPC, for that there are competitive exams. There's a whole process. Everybody has to go through that. And then the best performing are picked. And after that, this journey continues until the very best rise to the top. Perhaps one of the best systems of meritocracy that the world has seen. The current leader of China, President Xi Jinping, is an engineer. The previous one, President Hu Jintao, was an engineer. The one before him, President Chiang Zemin, an engineer. And it's just amazing. Like, And all of them, and that is why, because who would understand development, infrastructure building better than engineers? It was not deliberate, it was just because they performed the best. So whether you see in terms of education, some of China's universities are some of the best in the world. I visited Beijing University in December 94 for the first time. We went there. It was just like Pakistani universities at the time, probably would be just like Punjab University at the time. And this time when I visited Chinese university, they were matching in terms of their infrastructure, in terms of their faculty, in terms of their student body, the top universities in the US and the UK and other European countries. So this journey, and I remember very interestingly, about 20 years ago, I was in the US and I had there's some Chinese diplomats we were studying together there in America, perhaps 25 years ago. And we would talk and I'd say, oh, you're making amazing strides to development. And they would say, no. We are just a poor country. We are trying. Very humble, very down to earth. And they used to say, I remember still, that, until 2025, our journey will not produce substantive results. And what did we see? By 2025, China is an economic superpower. It's a technological superpower. Like I said, in some of the most sophisticated technologies in the world, it is a joint leader with the US. And yet, it is a very peaceful country which has no military bases around the world, which does not undertake any military adventures anywhere. It focuses on what? It focuses on development through trade and investment. BRI is a great manifestation of China's way of doing things, of China's foreign policy, of China's economic policy. And Pakistan is proud to be a partner of China. CPAC, which is a flagship project of BRI, and which has the capacity to transform Pakistan's economy, is in process. But in so many countries around the world, BRI has touched the lives of hundreds of millions of people. So today, ladies and gentlemen, to commemorate, to discuss, to deliberate, to brainstorm, and to come up with some ideas as to what Pakistan can learn from China's great experiment. We have a very eminent panel with us today. Our young, dynamic Special Assistant to the Prime Minister, who was in China himself recently. He's looking at commerce and is eminently qualified for that. So our former ambassadors to China, the Chinese Deputy Head of Mission, our dear professor. So I'm very much looking forward, like all of you, to the insights that they would all share with us today. So I'd like to congratulate my friends from China on this anniversary. And I'd like to underline that Pakistan and China, which are not just iron friends, not just iron brothers. They're also partners in development and in peace and security. What Pakistan recently accomplished in terms of bringing about a peaceful resolution of this ongoing conflict, which is not going to be easy. I've been saying that, and I've said that we will see a lot of grave challenges in this negotiations process. But what Pakistan has accomplished, the world has recognized, and that would not have been possible without the support from China. So we are partners in peace, we are partners in progress, we are partners in development. With these words, I'd like to thank all our panelists here today and all our distinguished guests, all of you, and I look forward to a very intense and a very insightful session. I thank you all.
Thank you, Ambassador Johar Salim, for providing insightful overview to China's remarkable development achievements, which has set stage for today's insights from other panelists. Today, our first panelist is Professor Gao Jian, who has joined us from Shanghai virtually. Professor Gao Jian is Secretary General of the Shanghai Academy of Global Governance and Area Studies at the Shanghai International Studies University. He also holds the position of Director of the Center for British Studies and Center for Sino-British People-to-People Dialogue. He is a distinguished researcher of the China Forum at Tsinghua University, and Professor Gao is a renowned columnist for various media outlets. His primary academic interests lie in the comparative cultural and philosophical studies, Chinese and world intellectual history. Professor Gao Jian will be providing his insights on the governing with Chinese characteristics, understanding the CPC's governance philosophy and tradition. Professor Gao, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me, Nabia?
Thank you. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, thank you, Nabia. I would like to thank you, our Regional Institute, to invite me. Thank President Johar Salim to invite me to this wonderful discussion about China's CPC's 105-year anniversary. And it's really a huge subject to talk about our CPC's philosophy and its tradition. But let me try to, in just 15 minutes, to share my very humble ideas about some very specific and indispensable principles that CPC has adopted for the past 105 years. Well, first, allow me to point out, when we talk about CPC's successful experience, I think it is largely in relation to a subject that is modernization. As Karl Marx has pointed out in his book in 1848, he talked about modernization is an unavoidable fate. Any nation, if they are not going to be, eradicated from the world, they must face. Modernization is our common subject and a challenge, particularly for the developed countries like China, like Pakistan. However, ladies and gentlemen, let's say for a long certain period of years, particularly in the late 20th century, actually the subject of modernization is culturally very much monopolized by the Western concept. As we all know, to the late of the 20th century, there's a Japanese-American writer, Fukuyama. He just argued that in his book, The End of History and the Ultimate Man, he just argued that when modernization is actually finally will take the form of westernization. And to be specific, westernization is actually characterized by Americanization. And this is a very, very contentious subject. Even till now, we would face that. This is a truthful judgment, or this is our false idea has been proved wrong by the real history. Well, So when we talk about civilization, talk about modernization, I think CPC's evolutionary history is very much related to China's road to modernization. For generations of Chinese people from the 19th century until now, we are just struggling to find out appropriate way and the road for China's modernization. As President Salim has pointed out, in the 19th century, China actually was very much kind of invaded by the Western powers, as China absolutely and obviously fell behind on the way to modernization. So ever since then, Chinese people has been intellectually struggling to find out appropriate way and the road to modernization. And today, when we talk about the Chinese modernization, I think one very important, factor we must consider is, now let me be very straightforward, and we can see very clearly, it has been more and more clear that the Western style of modernization has fallen into some very, very serious, and I would say more serious problems in the future. As we can see, the fragmentation of society is going to extremes. And we can see a lot of social turmoils and riots in most of the Western countries and developed countries. And we can see the partisan extremity is obvious. And I just talked to American colleagues. I say, I don't think China and America would be like, a life or death opponents to each other. I think the Republicans' real enemy is a Democrat because their contradictions have no way to solve because of their style of modernization. So in the light of such a dramatic change in today's world, maybe I think it would be very much worthwhile to think about what is China's modernization and what are the characteristics for China's modernization. Well, since my time is very limited, I just go through with some very basic ideas I would like to touch on. For CPC's philosophy or wisdom or tradition about its governance, I think the first point I would like to share is 实事求是. While in English we say down to the earth and be realistic. President Salim has made a very clear narration about the modern history of China. Yes, China fell behind as a very poor country in the 19th century. We suffered our bitterest time in our history, and we were very much raped by the Western powers, invaded by those early modern countries in the 19th century and in the early 20th century. So this is the fact. Down to the earth and be realistic is a very important philosophy we stick to ever since the foundation of the Republic. So to be specific, now the real issue is what is and what were and what is the social major contradictions. In the 1980s, that is our the problem between our people's growing need for materialistic life and our poor and fall behind productivity. Today, in the new period of socialism, we say the major contradiction is people's dream of a well-balanced life and the unbalanced development in many perspectives. So, face the social major contradictions is something we must be very much sticking to. That is the social reality. So down to the earth is extremely important. If we fall behind in some respect, ready to learn and be enthusiastic to learn and be very humble and always ready to learn from the outside world. So open door policy is a policy that we have to stick to and we will definitely be very much persistent in the future. And second point is I would like to use the word self-governing, means 独立自主. For us, we are Pakistan, China, for the global South countries, less developed countries in 19th century and 20th century, we shared the common experience that we were very much colonized in that century. So we all know and we treasure very much the importance of self-governing. And being independent is such a golden treasury we must stick to. So our President Xi has pointed out frequently in a lot of documents, official documents, he said, we don't have any guidebook for us to take the road of modernization. There's no country that could be, stand for as a kind of teacher or master for China's modernization. No, the only way for us to establish our own modernization is to be realistic and based on our reality and based on our tradition and culture, based on our social reality, and find our way forward. That is 独立自主. Third point I'd like to point out is always stick to the principle of people-oriented, 以人民为中心. While it's a philosophical issue, what's the difference between people, 人民, and civilian, the Western sense, 公民? Do we have civilian in the Western sense of culture? Now, this is a philosophical question. Nowadays, we all talk about civilians' rights, but a very deeper question is, do we have the Western-style civilian society or civil society in our cultures? Now, this is very important because when we talk about a civilian, actually, we would absolutely fall into the trap of, say, confrontational relationship, say, human rights in the Western sense, say, a social contract, say, rights and obligations. But we Chinese, Pakistan culture, do we have that kind of Western cultural basis in our history, tradition, and now? So we would say Chinese modernization stick to people-oriented. Now, people-oriented is I think is an innovative political term for us to understand now. And President Xi just argued, always ask whether our people are in favor of or not, whether our people agree or not. These are the principles CPC must stick to in our social governance. So, and President Salim talked about use one word to make the conclusive or remark about Chinese modernization. He talked about meritocracy. Well, allow me to share a little bit different idea. Now, meritocracy in the Western philosophy is absolutely stick to the principle of elite culture. But do Chinese culture, do we have a clear distinction between the elite culture and the common people's culture? Now, if we use the word, I understand why President Salim used the word meritocracy. I agree with you to some degree, since our leaders, really, they are highly intellectual leaders, and you can use the word meritocracy, but allow me to use a modifier that is people's meritocracy, people's-oriented meritocracy, because Chinese philosophy stick to the principle the real wisdom must be in response to the most common people's need. Now, never look down upon the most common people. I don't use the word grassroots. I use common people's wisdom. That is because, we don't want to complicate the issue because simplicity goes straight to the point is the Chinese philosophy and the Chinese social governance. Well, third point, parties leadership is very important. We have a very strong party leadership. And our party system is quite different from the Western party system. Because have a look at the Western culture, their party system is absolutely based on interest group driven society. So representative culture in the Western society now is actually the fragmentation of the society by different party system. That is why their lobby culture is on such a rise. But in China, we have a party system with CPC and the leadership, and we would be, in very close relationship and cooperation with the other parties on the structure of conference and consultation. So this is our party system. But allow me to emphasize a strong leadership of party is extremely crucial for China's successful story. Fourth point, now the culture is important, the importance of tradition and culture. And just 3 years ago, President Xi just argued in his speech. He talked about the second integration between China, Marxism and the Chinese fine traditional culture, and also in a global civilization initiative. President Xi called for all the nations would put sufficient emphasis on the importance of your culture and tradition. And we just call for all the nations to give sufficient and adequate attention to the importance of culture and the tradition on our way on the pursuit of modernization. So the culture is extremely, extremely important. I'm not going to specify some different factors in Chinese culture, but I do want I actually shared an article with Nabia on the subject. If you are interested in that, you can go refer to that. So our last point, when we talk about the Chinese modernization, what is the world's significance of Chinese modernization? Now, let me point out, yes, I agree, China's role in the world has changed. Let's say from a follower in the global society, now we play the role as an initiator for the new construction of the changing order. China is ready to make its contribution of Chinese wisdom, and China is ready to take the global role in the international affairs. However, does that mean that China's way to modernization should be copied by the other nations? I absolutely disagree with this point. And I don't think the Chinese government would have the ambition to say, well, let's China's modern way of modernization to be copied and cloned by the other countries. I don't think that is the purpose of China. And China is a member of the developing countries, a member of the global South societies. And China's mode, if it is a transfixed mode, China's mode just tell us all that there's no transfixed mode for different nations backgrounded by different cultures. And all the nations on the pursuit of our appropriate way to modernization must be in recalling of our tradition and culture, must be based on our social reality. That is the only way of modernization. That is the essentials of China's road of modernization, if it is a China's road. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Gao Jian, for the enriching insights on China's own path to modernization, which is achieved through the governance philosophy that is deeply rooted in China's own realities, traditions, and civilizational values and wisdom. Now we move toward our second speaker. Our second panelist is Ambassador Masood Khalid. He is one of Pakistan's most decorated and accomplished diplomat and the longest serving ambassador of Pakistan to China. And he is also a main architect of China-Pakistan economic corridor and has played a pivotal role in Pakistan-China relations. Ambassador Masood Khalid will provide insights on China's national rejuvenation as the CPC's domestic goal and foreign policy driver. Sir, the floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum and ni hao, good afternoon. First of all, my thanks to the Institute of Regional Studies for inviting me here. And I'm pleased that Rana Afzal Saab is here, the Special Assistant to Prime Minister on Commerce.
And when we talk of our relations, I'm not going to talk of Pakistan-China relations today in great detail. But when we talk of Pakistan-China relations, trade and commerce constitutes a very important component of this relationship. Ambassador Johar Salim, President of IRS, Mr. Shi, the Deputy Head of Mission of the Embassy of the People's Republic of China, Ambassador Muinul Haq, and Madam Nabila Jafar. Thank you very much for your kind words. Well, I happened to be there when CPEC started. I don't think that I was the architect, but okay, if that is it, I'll accept it. Thank you very much. Now, I think previous speakers, Ambassador Johar Salim and then Professor Gao have given a very good roundup of how China has, made this progress in all these years. Now, what I'll do is that I'm an outsider. I was in China as an outside observer. I'll try to share my views and my thoughts with you as to how China has achieved what it has achieved in the last 105 years. We are talking of 105 years of the Communist Party of China. So let's divide it into the initial phase, the middle phase, and the current phase. Now, when we talk of the Communist Party of China, briefly speaking, it started from a very, I must say, as a beginner, they started as a study group in the Peking University. Some professors, because they were, studying communism and what was happening in the former Soviet Union. So they constituted this study group in the Peking University and kind of created that initial, caucus for party to lay down its foundation. And of course, then we come to, so party has, what I'm trying to say is that party has gone through many phases of setbacks, success, achievements, retreats. So this party started in 1921 in Shanghai. And in the initial phase, there was a time that party, even after holding its first meeting in Shanghai, if I'm not wrong, they held a secret meeting in Zhejiang on a boat to deliberate on, how the party will formulate its policy and its program in future. Initially, there was an alliance with Kuomintang, which was the ruling party, led by Dr. Sun Yat-sen, who is highly respected in China even now. And then we see that there was a divergence, ideological divergence between Kuomintang and the growing strength of Communist Party of China. And then there was a phase when the civil war started. There was the Shanghai massacre where Chiang Kai-shek, engaged in a massive massacre of the Communist Party cadres, which was emerging on China's political scene at that time. And of course, that polarized the situation. And then the civil war started. And then you come to the episode of the Long March, where Kuomintang had an upper hand, and Chairman Mao Zedong, who was by then had emerged as the leader of the proletariat and the farming community. By then, he had mobilized the rural peasants for communist revolution. And then he decided to make a strategic retreat. And in Long March, lots of Chinese lost their lives. And of course, the most important thing strategically, which Chairman Mao Zedong did, was to create this force of Red Guards, which comprised of 18 and 19 years and 20 years young soldiers, who really had a historic role in China's struggle. And then, of course, we had, after Long March, we had this 1937, I think 36, the invasion of Japan, and the split between Kuomintang and CPC. And this civil war continued for 9-10 years. And after the civil war in 1949, Kuomintang was defeated by the communist forces led by Chairman Mao Zedong, and they fled away to what is now Formosa, or what is now Taiwan, actually. So this is the story. When you really read about the Communist Party, how it evolved, hundreds and thousands of people lost their lives in this struggle. And this was an ideological struggle rooted in the aspirations of the Chinese people, poor people who had suffered during, Qing dynasty and subsequently at the hands of Kuomintang. So Mao Zedong gave a new voice to the downtrodden. And that's why Communist Party became popular and led to this People's Revolution, whereby New China, or the People's Republic of China, was proclaimed in October 1949. So this was the initial phase. The second phase, of course, China was very poor, backward, an agrarian society. So Chairman Mao Zedong had a very important role for the nation building, how to galvanize these revolutionaries for national development. So Chairman Mao Zedong experimented different things. For example, in the beginning, of course, before 1949, Chinese Communist Party was, I would say, an offshoot of the Kuomintang. It was the Soviet Communist Party actually, in a way, created the Communist Party of China, because this was part of the Global Communist Alliance. There's a lot of history about that. But what I'm saying is that after 1949, the Soviets helped China initially in the face of the economic development. But then ideological differences cropped up, and the Soviet Union, former Soviet Union, USSR, withdrew all its help and assistance and experts from China. So that was the time that Chairman Mao Zedong decided to go for self-reliance. And then we see the process of industrialization, which started with the Great Leap Forward. Of course, that experiment did not succeed fully, because what Chairman Mao Zedong wanted was to industrialize China, to transform China from an agrarian society into a industrial society. Now, here in this context, I think is important, because planning part has been very important in China's development. When we talk of development, so China has launched the 15th five-year plan now, right? But the history of the five-year plan began in 1953. That was the first five-year plan. And under that first five-year plan, 156 major projects were launched by Chairman Mao Zedong. And of course, the initial phase of the Chinese plans was based on the Soviet model, with an emphasis on heavy industry and infrastructure. Now, this is important, that the first plan, I would like to share some facts with you. In the first five-year plan, China envisaged I mean, China started from a railway network of only 4,000 kilometers in 1956-57. And there were 4,000 kilometers of railway lines and 10,000 kilometers of roads in the first 5-year plan. Now what do we see? 50,000 kilometers of fast trains and railway network, and double or triple the size of the roads. It is one of the best infrastructure in the world I have seen, transportation network, be it trains or be it roads. Now, in the first phase, till the demise of Chairman Mao Zedong in 1976, the emphasis was on a centralized economy, which created structural problems. And when Deng Xiaoping came into power, he realized that the old model would not sustain the growing requirements of China's population. So he initiated the process of reforms and opening up of Chinese economy. Now, as a result of which, you saw a fishing village of Shenzhen gradually emerging as the first economic zone of China, and now it is a fully modern industrialized hub of China. So this process continued on a sustained basis under Deng Xiaoping leadership. China opened up, China developed special economic zones, borrowed foreign technology, but continued to move on to the road of self-reliance. I'll give you one example. In 1989, I think, or 1990, China sought a loan from the World Bank for the Shanghai metro project, which the World Bank refused. And the Chinese government said that, okay, nothing doing. We'll do it ourselves. And if you go and see the Shanghai underground system today, you will realize how through dint of hard work and sacrifices, China has achieved all that. Of course, there was a mention of people being lifted out of poverty, 800 million people out. It's a human miracle. It's really in a span of 45 years or so, China has transformed itself from an agrarian economy into an industrial giant. It's a knowledge economy today. It's a leader in technology and innovation. Now, briefly, I would like to mention it because this is important. People say China has achieved this and that. How China has achieved all this? We have to seriously go deeper in our analysis as to how China has achieved this. First of all, China has not divorced itself. While pursuing this modernization and change, they believe that change is the only thing which is constant. But while transforming their society, the Chinese political leadership has clung to not only the ideological principles of the party, Leninist principles, but modified them to conform to today's requirements. At the same time, they have well grounded their policy making in the cultural traditions, cultural moorings of the Chinese society, which are driven by, Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism. These are the cultural elements of Chinese society, and Chinese take pride in their past inventions, which they introduced to the world. and they are nationalistic. They are hugely patriotic, and they take full pride in what they have achieved today. So it is this national fervor, national drive, which allows the government, which allows the Communist Party to really channelize the people into a force for national development. So what I'm saying is that this planning, and that's why China says that it is not a Western type of modernization which China is embarked upon. It is rooted in the Chinese characteristics, cultural characteristics, traditions, values, Asian values, values of filial piety, family. All these things are very, very important for China and contribute enormously in channelizing. It's not easy, 1.4 billion people, to work in harmony and in unison for national development and to achieve what they have achieved today. Now, what is the secret of their planning? As I said, they started their planning process in 1953. At each stage of planning, there's course correction. And yes, they also emphasize a lot on the accuracy of the data collection. Because if your data is wrong, if your data is fudged, you cannot do any planning. So planning process is systematic, scientific, pragmatic, and has the safety valve of course correction and appropriate changes and adjustments. Now, for example, maybe you already know, China is the largest steel producing country today in the world. China is the largest shipbuilding country in the world. In 6 or 7 years, I don't remember the period, China used so much of cement for its infrastructure development, outpacing the entire input globally. So you can imagine the mega scale at which China operates. I have shared some facts with you. Now, how this planning process proceeds? This has been possible due to a clear vision of the leadership, coupled with the hard work of Chinese people. The process of planning and its implementation has not been without its challenges, but has been successful as it conformed to the needs of the people. People-centric planning. When they say it's a slogan, no, it's not a slogan, because Communist Party emerged from a people-led struggle. So people's aspirations are very close to the minds and hearts of the Chinese leadership. And if I may mention here, all the top leaders of China suffered at one point or the other through changes in the political system. Even President Xi Jinping spent about 6 to 7 years, under the Cultural Revolution in hard work and labor. He interacted with local peasants, local communities. That is why, his pulse is on the aspirations and expectations of the people. So how can a leader who is so cognizant of the needs of the people can do a planning which does not conform to people's expectations? So this point has to be kept in mind. Now, so I have already talked about how there's not much time, otherwise I could go on. Now, what China has achieved today, Communist Party is, what is the membership of Communist Party now? Nearly 100 million people. And it's a very selective process. It's not easy to fill up a form and you become a member of the Communist Party. There is a whole process of scrutiny and, due deliberation. And somebody, I think Ambassador Johar Salim mentioned a very important point. The leaders of China, at least 3 or 4 leaders, including President Xi Jinping, they have been engineers. So they have, this is an engineering model of China's development, led by engineers. Right now, we have talked about China's global initiatives, yes. Now, what China has right now, I mean, at this point in time, China has emerged as a superpower in terms of figures and statistics. Of course, it is about $19 trillion economy compared to $28 or $29 trillion of the American economy. There is a gap. But the Chinese leadership says that we do not want to disturb the international system. We do not want to dismantle the global order, because there is a lot of talk by some Western analysts that China wants to wreck the international system. No, China's rise has been peaceful. China says that we have benefited from this system. We have benefited from globalization. We have benefited from the membership of WTO. So why should we rock the boat on which we are riding? This is understandable. What China wants is changes and adjustments in the international political and financial architecture in view of the new realities. For example, China's voting rights in IMF and other international financial bodies are still quite low compared to the Western countries. But look at China. China is already the second largest economy of the world. Now, whether you talk of the global discourse on peace and development, you cannot simply marginalize China. China is very much there. China is contributing about 30% to global economy. Asia's rise is also being steered by China. So how can we talk of decoupling from China? China and the United States together account for about 50% of global GDP. Their supply chains, their economies are interdependent. There's a great number of generation of jobs in America because of Chinese companies. So I think the economies are interlinked, and this talk of decoupling is, I think, misplaced, and it's not going to go anywhere. I'm fully convinced. Now, as far as I will not talk about the geopolitics right now, but I can say that Chinese development, those of you who have been in China recently, they will bear me out that actually China changes not every 6 months, every 6 minutes, I think. There is always a change there. Wherever you go, you find something new. All the buses, all the taxis in Beijing are now electric buses and electric taxis. And this was not 4 or 5 years ago. Pollution, they have overcome the pollution. And they have introduced green technology. They are now leaders in green energy. And I mean, culturally also, before I conclude, one must understand that unlike others, Chinese do not believe in knee-jerk reactions. They work systematically, quietly, achieve their targets. And now the biggest target for them is to become a fully modern and progressive country by 2049. And Chinese policy, Chinese planning processes also believes and ensures that the progress is incremental, one by one, bricklaying, stage by stage. So, and stage by stage, one by one, Chinese achieve their targets. So I think we have a lot to learn from China. I'll conclude here, and if there are any questions, I think we can further deliberate on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for providing a very detailed historical overview of the formation of CPC and its evolution as a central force which has transformed China. Now we are moving toward our third speaker panelist, Ambassador Moinul Haq. Ambassador Moinul Haq is a career diplomat specialized in bilateral relations, particularly with China. He served in China as Pakistan's ambassador from 2020 to 2023. And he has also played a pivotal role in the promotion of Pakistan-China relations. Ambassador Moinul Haq will provide insights on the CPC and the Global South, its development, diplomacy, and growing contributions to global public good. Sir, the floor is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you, Nabila, for your kind words. Janab Rana Hassan Afzal Saab, Special Assistant to Prime Minister on Commerce, Ambassador Johar Salim, President IRS, Ambassador Masood Khalid, my dear senior and colleague, former Ambassador to China, Professor Gao, and of course, my dear friend, Mr. Shi Yuanqian, the Deputy Chief of Mission of China. Ladies and gentlemen, scholars, researchers from IRS, Assalamu alaikum. Good morning and Shah Jogha. I thank IRS for organizing this important seminar on the anniversary of 105th anniversary of the founding of CPC and inviting me to share my thoughts. Many speakers before me, especially, of course, all speakers, in fact, before me, Ambassador Johar Salim, Ambassador Masood Khalid, and Professor Gao had spoken about the genesis of CPC. So, though I have a topic, but I would like to say a few words on that, and in the process, not to duplicate what others have said. I would like you to visualize the year 1921 in China, the conditions in China, civil war, bloodshed, disorder, chaos, foreign occupation, local uprisings, nationalists getting stronghold in the country, but not able to control and bring stability to the region, to the country. And in that scenario, few individuals, nobodies, get together to think of a new way to bring some order to the country. As mentioned by Ambassador Masood Khalid, these 11 civilians get together in a building in Shanghai, in a place of who are familiar with Shanghai, in French Concession, a very difficult place at that time, to deliberate. But the police at that time of the French Concession got to know about this meeting. They dispersed that meeting and they could not complete their meeting and deliberations. And as Ambassador Masood Khalid said, that after a few weeks, they meet in a tourist boat in Xinjiang province next to Shanghai in South Lake and set the foundation for the Communist Party of China. These were 11 people representing about 50 other members from across China. So if you think of the scenario, people would say that these peoples were idealists. They were too ambitious or they were dreamers. But these same, and in this 11, there was a junior member who later became the supreme leader of China, Chairman Mao. But within founding of CPC in 1921 and 16, 17 years, Chairman Mao stood at Tiananmen Square in 1948 and proclaimed the People's Republic of China, saying, the people of China have stood up. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a remarkable story. From 50 members in 1921 to today, more than 100 million people, CPC now represents one of the largest political parties in the world. It's a story worth telling again and again, a story of continuous transformation. From leading a revolution, to building a nation, to reforming an economy, and today, helping shape international development and global governance. Three things, of course, many people have already stated about the ethos of CPC's governance model, but I would like to, maybe for the sake of repetition, three things are very important as part of its ethos. One thing very important, which I also noticed during my stay in China, there is not a simply a political or electoral organization. It's a complete institution which has characterized by a long-term vision. So this long-term vision, you can understand that it was from the beginning when these 11 people were thinking about the future of China, they were thinking about the long-term future of China. So it's part of their DNA of CPC, this long-term vision, organizational discipline, and policy continuity. Second is very important, already mentioned, is about the quality of their leadership. Of course, I will not go into detail, but it's worth for the researchers and scholars to see how they select their members. What is the quality of the membership of these people who have to, in future, take the leadership role at the top level? And of course, as Professor Gao said, that it's meritocracy, but also peoples-based meritocracy. And thirdly, it's important that CPC distinguishes itself from other communist parties around the world. It has shown pragmatism and continuous reform, willingness to adapt to changing circumstances, especially adapting the market reforms and to develop their national development goals. Now, the topic which Nabila has given me is about development diplomacy and growing contribution to global international public goods. So to understand China's development diplomacy, I would like to take you to different eras and different philosophies of different presidents, right from the beginning to President Xi. In the first era, which is of course the leadership of Chairman Mao and Premier Zhou Enlai, which from 1948 till about 1978-79, at the time China decided to support especially Asian and African countries, which were also battling communism and foreign subjugation, because China has also gone through these difficult times. China's first international diplomatic breakthrough came in 1955 in the Bandung conference in Indonesia, when Premier Zhou Enlai presented China and projected China as a partner and a fellow development country. And at that time, he also proposed his famous 5 principles of peaceful coexistence: mutual respect, sovereignty, non-aggression, non-interference, equality and mutual benefit, and peaceful coexistence. And these principles still are the main underlying philosophy of Chinese diplomacy. Then we come to Deng Xiaoping era. Here you will see a major shift to development. Development was given more importance than ideology. So as part of opening up and reform, China's foreign relations now were based on economic cooperation than ideological alignment. Then President Jiang Zemin, at that time, globalization was taking place. So China main focus was how to be part of that globalization forces. They joined WTO and started expanding trade to Latin America and Africa. And at that time, a very important forum for cooperation with African countries was established. And then President Hu Jintao, he promoted concepts of peaceful development and harmonious world. And China increasingly become a very important and responsible developing partner in that era. And now we come to the new era of President Xi Jinping, when from development participants, China became a development provider. And of course, you all know the initiatives of President Xi Jinping, BRI, GDI, GSI, GCI, and now recently GGI, the Global Governance Initiative, which are the basis of a very unique concept which he gave in 2013, the community with a shared future of mankind. So this is a shift from merely bilateral projects to building international goods. Now, when we talk about international goods, there are 7 dimensions of that in which China, over the years, especially in the new era, have contributed to development, especially in the global south and in developing countries. First is infrastructure connectivity. Of course, BRI was about that. And it contributed to connectivity, logistics, trade facilitation, and industrialization. And very key example, as mentioned earlier, is China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. And there are many other examples which are in Asia and Africa of these very important infrastructure projects. Very important part, another thing which is important for any development projects, is financing, development financing. China helped in providing long-term financing, concessional loans, easy loans, and grants also as part of its initiatives. It set up a very important institution called Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, and also through BRICS Bank, New Development Bank, they provided a lot of financing. There is a figure that between 2008 and 2024, about 16 years, China's 2 main policy banks, China Development Bank and Import Bank of China, provided or committed around US $470 billion for over 900 infrastructure projects across the global south. Second important point which China helped, especially the poor countries, was sharing its experience of poverty reduction. As of course, you all know the miracle of the modern days in lifting of 800 million people. So China helped in great respect, including Pakistan, in that initiative of poverty reduction. Recently, China has become a very important player in science and technology, innovation, new technologies. China has created a world-class navigation system, which is called Beidou. It helps and integrate developing countries with this navigation system, helping them in fields of agriculture, meteorology, and other fields. Huawei, the Chinese premier IT company, has set up centers, training centers, including in Pakistan, one of the largest in the region, to train young people in digital technologies. And fiber optic networks have also been set across Pakistan also and across the region also. Public health. During COVID-19 pandemic, as you all know, what type of challenges were faced by the international community. At that time, there was a race for developing vaccines and also for getting access to vaccines. At that point, President Xi announced that vaccines, whenever developed, will be global public good. And they provided millions of vaccines doses free of charge to many African countries, including Pakistan, and also on concessional rates. Green development. Of course, this is a very important area for sustainable development of any country. And China, through its BRI and GDI project initiatives, had provided special grants and special projects to help green transformation of countries. Project like Karot hydropower project in Pakistan, Qaid-e-Azam Solar Park, are some of the examples of this global good. And finally, another very important element is human capital development. China, I think, for any nation to develop, if they can't invest in their people, they can't provide them education, technical education, skills development, you cannot go on a path to economic prosperity. China has learned that. China also helped other developing countries in developing their education institutions, and especially technical and vocational education institutions, and providing thousands of scholarships. Recently, I learned that around 1,000 Pakistanis from agriculture field, Pakistanis farmers and other practitioners were sent to China on special training on agriculture. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what lessons we in the developing world can learn from this China's experience? Number one is strategic lessons about long-term planning, about national development vision, about political stability and consensus, and about strong state capacity and institutional continuity. Second is governance lessons about, as we talked earlier, about merit-based leadership, continuous learning and adapting, as Ambassador Masood Khalid said, based on evidence and data-based policies, especially people-centric policies. And most importantly, you could have ideas, you could have vision, you can have initiatives and programs, but if you don't have follow-up and implementation, then all those will fail. So important to develop a system of continuous follow-up and implementation, effective implementation. And lastly, economic lessons. You need to build infrastructure. You need to build human development. Go for industrialization. Invest in innovation. Build your capacities for exports. Generate employment. And of course, it will lead to the collective prosperity of the nation. Let me conclude by saying that for all of us, for policymakers and scholars and researchers, the value of studying CPC and its ethos is important to understand how a disciplined institutions, adaptive and capable leadership, long-term planning, and sustained implementation can shape or can transform a nation's development trajectory and its role in the international affairs. This year, we are celebrating 75th anniversary of China-Pakistan diplomatic relations. And this year, it's very important to renew our commitment, our two countries' commitment to work together for the development and economic prosperity, not only our two countries, but for the entire region. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Moinul Haq, for enlightening insights on China's development achievements within and becoming a development provider across the border, and its remarkable journey toward becoming a leader in innovation and the lessons that the Global South can draw from this, from these achievements of China under CPC. Without further ado, now I would like to invite Mr. Shi Yuanqiang, His Excellency. He is the Deputy Head of Mission at the Embassy of People's Republic of China. Mr. Shi is a senior diplomat of the People's Republic of China, currently serving as in Pakistan Embassy as the Deputy Head of Mission. And throughout his tenure, he has served on several occasions as charge d'affaires at the embassy. And Mr. Shi has played a significant role in advancing Pakistan-China economic corridor and the bilateral relations. With this brief introduction, the floor is yours, Mr. Shi.
Excellency Ambassador Joha Salim, President of RIS, Excellency Rana Iksan Haftar, Special Assistant to Prime Minister on Commerce, Excellency Ambassador Masood Khalid, Excellency Ambassador Moin Haq, both are the mentors of me for China-Pakistan relations. And also Mr. Gao Jian, and also my good sister, Ms. Nabilia Jafir. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, experts and scholars, friends, good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum, ni hao. It gives me great pleasure to attend today's great event. On July 1st, our embassy hosted a reception celebrating the 105th anniversary of the founding of the Communist Party of China. His Excellency Deputy Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar, along with other Pakistani officials and representatives of various political parties, joined us in commemorating this milestone event in a warm and friendly atmosphere. Today, I'm honored to be engaged in in-depth exchange with distinguished political leaders and scholars on the governance philosophy and the political and the development achievements of CPC. Previous distinguished guesters have comprehensively analyzed the CPC's success from different angles, which I fully agree and find it very enlightening. On behalf of the Chinese Embassy in Pakistan, I would like to express our sincere appreciation to the Institute of Regional Studies, IRIS, for your meticulous preparation for this seminar, and extend our heartfelt thanks to friends from all sectors of Pakistan who have long cared about and supported the development of China-Pakistan relations. Today, I see so many old friends who have been supportive to our embassy and true friend of China. On the morning of July 1st, a grand gathering marking the 105th anniversary of the founding of CPC was held in Beijing. General Secretary Xi Jinping delivered an important speech, which comprehensively reviews and summarizes the glorious course and the great achievements of CPC over the past 105 years. It profoundly reveals the outstanding quality and the key secrets that have enabled CPC to continuously forge resilience, set forth clear requirement for all CPC members to strengthen their confidence and continue their unremitting efforts, and issues a great call to the entire party to strive with all their might to create new historical glories. Currently, all CPC members and the Chinese people are responding to the great call of General Secretary Xi Jinping and the CPC Central Committee, forging ahead on the new journey, making contributions in the new era, and striving unremittingly to build China into a great modern socialist country in all respects, and realize the great rejuvenation of Chinese nation. In light of today's topic, I want to share with you the key to success that has enabled CPC to remain vigorous and dynamic throughout its 105-year journey from three perspectives. First, the CPC has always remained firmly committed to a people-centered approach, seeking happiness for the Chinese people and the rejuvenation for the Chinese nation. I think previous speakers also emphasized this. As noted in General Secretary Xi Jinping's speech, under the leadership of the CPC, the Chinese people, through a magnificent and great struggle, overthrew three mountains of imperialism, feudalism, and bureaucratic capitalism, established a new China in which the people are the masters of the country, realized a historic leap in the people's living standards from having inadequate food and clothing to achieving moderate prosperity overall, and now to moderate prosperity in all respects. The founding of CPC stands as one of the most significant historic events of the 20th century, fundamentally changing the future and the destiny of the Chinese people. From the party of just over 50 members at its founding, the CPC has now grown into the world's largest ruling party. It has united and led the Chinese people in accomplishing the great leap from standing up and growing prosperous to becoming strong. China's GDP has surged from 7.9 billion yuan in 1952 to 140.2 trillion yuan in 2025. From poverty and weakness to now a per capita income of $13,400, with manufacturing value added accounting for nearly 30% of global total, and overall national strength rising to the forefront of the world. Since the 18th National Congress of CPC in 2012, General Secretary Xi Jinping has led the entire party, the military, and the Chinese people to write a new chapter of the two miracles, namely rapid economic development and long-term social stability, propelling the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation into an irreversible historic course. We have won the largest scale battle against poverty in human history, lifting nearly 100 million rural people out of absolute poverty. We have established the world's largest education, social security, medical and health, and urban housing security systems. We have built a comprehensive multi-dimensional transportation network with a total length of over 6 million kilometers, while our electricity generation now accounts for nearly 1/3 of the global total. Rapid progress has also been achieved in the research, development, and application of artificial intelligence, biomedicine, quantum technology, and other fields. Led by CPC, hundreds of millions of Chinese people are marching confidently on the new journey towards building a modern socialist country in all respects. Second, CPC has always championed a global vision, pursuing progress for humanity and the common good for the world. As pointed out in General Secretary Xi Jinping's speech today, under the leadership of CPC, the Chinese people are advancing Chinese modernization, creating a new form of human advancement, expanding the pathways for developing countries to achieve modernization. We must follow the will of the people and the trend of the times. Hold high the banner of peace, development, cooperation, and mutual benefit. Champion the common values of humanity, promote the building of new type of international relations, and actively implement the Global Development Initiative, Global Security Initiative, Global Civilization Initiative, and the Global Governance Initiative proposed by President Xi Jinping, so as to inject more positive energy into world peace and development. Since the 18th National Congress of CPC, amid accelerating evolution of the world's profound changes unseen in a century, President Xi Jinping has personally planned and advanced major country diplomacy with Chinese characteristics. So far this year, President Xi has held talks and meetings with leaders of multiple countries for comprehensive and in-depth exchanges, including US, Russia, Pakistan, and other countries. Put forward China's propositions, demonstrate China's sense of responsibility, shared China's development opportunities, and delivered warmth, confidence, and strength to the world, cementing China's role as an anchor of stability in the turbulent world and the powerhouse in the global development. As a pivotal practical platform for advancing the building of a community with a shared future for humanity, the Belt and Road Initiative has taken root and yield fruitful outcomes in over 150 countries. It has grown into the world's largest, most extensive, and the most far-reaching platform for international economic cooperation, driving nearly $1 trillion in investment, delivering over 3,000 projects. According to World Bank research, the full implementation of the BII could lift 7 million people out of extreme poverty and 32 million people out of moderate poverty. As a pilot project of BII, the CPEC has so far brought over $25 billion in direct investment, more than 260,000 jobs, over 8,000 megawatts power generation, 510 kilometers of expressways, and 880 kilometers of national core power transition grids. It has injected robust impetus into Pakistan's economic and social development, set an important benchmark for high-quality Belt and Road cooperation, and served as a vivid embodiment of China-Pakistan community with a shared future. Third, the CPC has consistently upheld the principle of building the party with theories and thoughts, advancing full and rigorous party self-governance. As General Secretary Xi Jinping has pointed out, CPC takes Marxism as a powerful ideological weapon for transforming both the subjective world and the objective world. It adheres to freezing the mind, seeking truth from facts, moving with the times, and taking a pragmatic and realistic approach. It pays close attention to revealing and applying truth in the midst of social movements, is adept at testing and developing truth through practice, and continuously guides new practice with new theories, thereby ensuring that the cause of CPC and the people advances in the right direction. Since the 18th CPC National Congress, the fundamental reason why China has achieved historic achievements and why China's diplomacy continues to break new grounds and make significant contributions toward development lies in the stewardship of General Secretary Xi Jinping and the scientific guidance of Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era. The CPC Central Committee recently has set up Xi Jinping thought on party building, further enriching the scientific theoretical system of Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era. At present, we are studying and implementing Xi Jinping thought on party building and ensuring that the whole party remains united in thought, firm in will, coordinated in action, and strong in effectiveness, so as to rally together to build a great country to advance national rejuvenation on all fronts through Chinese modernization. Xi Jinping's thought on party building is concentrated on summary of General Secretary Xi Jinping's landmark and pioneering new ideas, new thinking, and new strategies. It not only provides the fundamental guidance and action plan for promoting party building in China, but also offers Chinese solution and Chinese wisdom for political parties around the world to strengthen their own development and national governance. China and Pakistan are ironclad brothers, and the friendship with China is a consensus shared by all political parties in Pakistan. Building on our in-depth study and understanding of Xi Jinping thought on party building, we are ready to strengthen exchanges with all Pakistani political parties, deepen exchanges on party and national governance, continuously enrich the China-Pakistan all-weather strategic cooperative partnership, achieve common development, and deliver great benefits to our two countries and two peoples. Ladies and gentlemen, this year marks the 75th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between China and Pakistan. Our ironclad friendship that has withstood the test of time and shared challenges stand as a vivid embodiment of CPC's philosophy of conducting international exchanges over the past century. We are delighted to see that our brotherly Pakistani people have also made new achievements in national development. And also, Pakistan has also demonstrated proactiveness, professionalism, and perseverance, and actively played a crucial role by successfully facilitating the memorandum understanding between Iran and the United States, making an important contribution to easing regional tensions and safeguarding regional peace and stability. We warmly congratulate our Pakistani brothers and sisters on your achievements at home and abroad. Over the past 105 years, the CPC has remained full of vigor and vitality. Over the past 75 years, the ironclad friendship between China and Pakistan has grown ever stronger with the passage of time. The continued advancement of Chinese modernization will certainly create a new steady stream of new opportunities for building an even closer China-Pakistan community with a shared future. The deepening China-Pakistan all-weather strategic cooperative partnership is increasingly served as the source of positive energy and stability amid today's turbulent international and regional landscape, and as a model for state-to-state relations. We are ready to work with Pakistan to implement the important consensus reached between the leaders of our two countries, deepen the alignment between China's 15th five-year plan and the Wulan Pakistan initiative, advance the implementation of the action plan to foster an even closer China-Pakistan community with a shared future in the new era, move faster to build an upgraded version of CPEC 2.0, jointly take the lead in implementing the 4 global initiatives proposed by President Xi Jinping, and make new and greater contributions to building a community with a shared future for humanity. To conclude, I wish the Communist Party of China everlasting vitality, and wish both China and Pakistan lasting prosperity, peace, and stability. Long live China-Pakistan friendship. Chimpa Dosti Jindaba. Thank you. Shukriya.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Mr. Shi Yuanqiang, for the special remarks on the CPC's prudent policies and pragmatic approach to development in the changing times and its stabilizing role within China and globally. Now, we would like to invite Honorable Mr. Rana Ehsan Afzal, who is serving as Special Assistant to Prime Minister on Commerce and Industries. He is a prominent spokesperson for the current administration and a key figure in driving Pakistan's export-led growth, bilateral trade expansion, and foreign economic policy. He focuses on formulating economic policies, advancing industry, academia linkages, and promoting Made in Pakistan initiatives. He is actively involved in strengthening trade diplomacy with partners such as China, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. He regularly participates in the high-level economic symposium, delivers keynote addresses at business chambers, and serves as a government spokesperson across various media platforms. And one more thing added to his credential is recently he attended a distinguished Dongfang Scholarship at Peking University. As Ambassador Masood Khalid said, that Peking University has played a very significant role in the formation of the Communist Party of China and in the progress of China. It is my honor to invite Mr. Rana Ehsan Afzal for his special remarks on development achievements by the CPC through policy innovation and lessons for Pakistan.
Honorable Ambassador Johar Salim Saab, Mr. Shi Yuanqiang, Deputy Head of Mission, Honorable Ambassador Moinul Haq Saab, Honorable Ambassador Masood Khalid Saab, Professor Zhao Jiang Saab, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. Ni hao, xia wu hao. At its core, the purpose of any political party or government is simple yet profound, and that is to improve the lives of its people, to secure their dignity and to ensure their future. If we are to measure the success of any governance model, we need to see the impact that that governance model has made on its citizen. And as already mentioned before by honorable ambassadors, what China has achieved in the last few decades is a human miracle to lift 800 million people out of poverty. It is unprecedented, and it means that their governance model has truly delivered. But to understand this, how it has happened, we have to go back to 1949. And at that point in time, it was merely a new nation. It was a country forged in the aftermath of a century of fragmentation. fragmentation, exhausted by decades of conflict, low resources and capital. The life expectancy at that time was 35 years. Their literacy was less than 20%. And you fast forward to 1978, their life expectancy had doubled. You go to 1990, as mentioned before, they had a per capita GDP of less than Pakistan. And fast forward today, it has crossed 13,000 US dollars, 7 times that of Pakistan almost. And life expectancy is equivalent to the most developed nations. And universal literacy has become the standard. These are the basic indicators. As mentioned, if you talk about the move towards carbon neutrality, robotics and AI adoption, space tech, logistics, if you talk about port efficiencies, railway network, fast rail, every aspect of life, China has become a leader. And as President Xi Jinping stated, the rejuvenation of the Chinese nation has entered an irreversible historic course. This transformation is not an accident, ladies and gentlemen. It is the result of an intentional, sophisticated institutional engineering that prioritizes the long-term human and economic potential of its people. To understand this rejuvenation, we must look at the Communist Party of China. Its journey began in 1921, as already narrated to you, but its evolution through 1949 was the crucible of its governing philosophy. Through the Nanchang Uprising, the Long March, and the War of Resistance, the party transformed from a small urban intellectual circle into the mass-based revolutionary force. And by 1949, it had forged an ideologically unified, battle-hardened cadre of leaders. And when we study the time from 1949 under Chairman Mao to 1976 and 1978, the Cultural Revolution was mentioned. Even though China was not a rich nation then, it was a poor nation constrained by the capital challenges. But even then, the mobilization and the organizational power of CPC, they did two major things. They invested in their people. Through the Barefoot Doctor, we saw that life expectancy doubled in those 3 decades. And in the education sector, they invested in the primary education and they achieved high levels of literacy. So when the moment came of opening up in 1978, they were entering the stage of industrial growth. They had a labor force which was healthy, and they had a skilled labor force which could actually enhance that industrial growth. What truly separates China from the rest of the world is its unique ability to harmonize long-term vision with sustained flawless execution. Nowhere is this more evident than in the 5-year plan system. We are currently observing that they are implementing their 15th 5-year plan, 26 to 2030. And these are not just policy documents. They are binding national contracts that transcend administrative tenures across government tiers. They provide policy predictability that global markets demand while steering the domestic economy towards high-quality development, carbon neutrality, and technological self-reliance. The unbroken sequence of this planning is the nervous system of China's macro management. It allows the state to act simultaneously as a macro manager and an entrepreneurial agent, ensuring that development goals are systematically and iteratively involved into the new quality productive forces of today. Now contrast this to the zigzag policy trap that plagues many democratic systems. In these environments, nations are often caught in noisy, short-term electoral cycles where the state oscillates widely, moving in one direction in one tenure, and when there is a new government, it turns and moves in another direction. So the CPC is the intellectual vanguard. Membership is grueling, as already mentioned. Multi-year journey of service. It takes a year to apply and to become a member. And then you become a probationary period. There is a probationary period where your performance and character are scrutinized. It is an organization of best minds, top-tier experts who are deployed to the front lines across 40,000 towns and villages. Each cadre is assigned clear objectives, KPIs, and there is a dual structure model where the party is the owner of the vision, the policy, and the government executes the strategy. We can contrast this with the money democracy or capital dictatorship we often see in the West and sometimes here, where policy is driven by populist narrative, religious rhetoric, loud voices, and lobbyist capture. China, in contrast, practices whole process democracy. It is built upon the mass line, a bottom-up, research-based process where policies are piloted, tested for empirical success, and only then scaled. Shenzhen was mentioned by the ambassador. As Deng Xiaoping famously said, they learn to cross the river by feeling the stones. Policymaking is based on science, research, and feedback from thousands of these villages, town government, counties, and what practically works. Policy is tested, refined, and then scaled. This is beautiful statecraft. The success has also exposed today's global hypocrisy, where the West held the industrial and technological need, and they were the loudest proponents of free trade and open markets. But in the face of organic competition, we see them restricting the sales of chips, penalizing shipping, and raising tariffs. This is not a dispute over trade. It is a desperate attempt to slow down a nation that simply outperformed. These standards reveal that the only advocate for open policy when they are winning. China's strength, however, is built upon internal discipline, not the exploitation of global loopholes. Now, coming to the last part of the discussion is the lessons that Pakistan can adopt. There are 1,000 lessons, but I feel that if we can talk about that their ports they've adopted AI, their infrastructure is good, and we need to bring that infrastructure. But these are all lagging indicators. Development comes later. First, you need a system, a structure of governance that is able to deliver. And there I feel that, the West views China as a centralized, they even label them as a dictatorial government, but it is the most decentralized system of governance. Their third, fourth, fifth tier of governments are the most autonomous, they have a lot of sway in policy making. And this is where we feel that we are working with two tiers of government, the center and the provincial level. We see that the third tier of government is missing in Pakistan. And service delivery cannot happen without a robust third tier of government, which is continuous and which is financially autonomous. So I think this is a missing leg in the governance structure of Pakistan, and we should raise our voices and we should be demanding that the third tier of government should be, and even if there is a third tier of government in certain parts of Pakistan, and we have that in Sindh, but is it really autonomous? Is it really financially autonomous? Can it deliver? So obviously, the first part is that we have a system, a third tier of government, and the second part is that we fight for its autonomy, their financial autonomy, and their continuity. So that is one thing that I think we should really move forward with and fast. The second thing is that, I've been to China 9 times and I've engaged with all tiers of their governments. And when you meet a mayor of a town, he will tell you that my town has a GDP of $1 billion or $500 million or $1.5 billion. If you meet a county head, he will tell you that my GDP is $100 billion, or $10 billion. A city could be $200 billion and a province could be $800 billion. But each tier of government is mapping their economy because they are responsible for their economy, they're responsible for their commerce, they're responsible for their tax. As mentioned that in 1978, by Ambassador Masood mentioned that they from the centralized economy, they devolved it. We haven't done that yet. Export is a subject of the center. Economy is a subject of the center. If you go meet a DCO, if you go meet a commissioner, and if you ask him, what is your GDP? What is your export? He would not be able to tell you because that data is not being collected at that level. So we need to devolve the subject of economy, commerce, and export to the provinces, and the provinces need to devolve it to the districts and the cities. So this is something which is, I think, vital. And without this, we cannot move forward because the businesses are being done on the ground. The businesses are happening, the factories are running in the villages and in the towns. And they have to look at the center for any small policy tweak. In China, I've heard that businessmen don't need to go to Beijing. Their problems are resolved where they are working. So this is something which is very important, and I try to raise this subject wherever I can, and I think we should make an effort towards moving that. And the third structural thing is, if the center has decided through a consultative process, in China, through the feedback from 40,000 governments at town level, that this is the direction we're going to take, and it's part of the 5-year plan, then that is the holy thing that everyone has to do, and it is synchronized, and all tiers of government works towards that. So we say in Pakistan, we have lack of resources, but even today in this budget, we are going to spend around 12 to 13 billion US dollars in PSDP and ADBs, accumulative of all the provinces and the center. But are we spending that money with a national priority? Are we spending that money to really get out of this economic boom and bust cycle where we are stuck? Or is each province spending their money in a different direction and going in different ways, and the center is going in different ways? We made an attempt this time, and provinces have contributed to the center to ensure that, and one of the reasons why we are able to give relief in the budget to the exporters and to the salaried classes because of that. So we have the resources. It's not that Pakistan does not have the resources, but we're not spending it with a national priority. And here comes the economic charter. We need it. When you have lack of resources, when you have the resources, but you're not spending it properly, then we need to discuss with the provinces. And this is a subject of NFC, where I think a lot of work needs to be done that we should. And the fourth and the last thing that I think we can still do in our system is that sector-wise, we can have long-term policies. So, for example, the Ministry of Commerce came with a textile policy. It's a 5-year policy, the automobile policy. At least then people in that sector know that these are the rules for the next 5 years, and they won't change. With that, I think China has been a big support to Pakistan at all levels, at all times since our independence and since its independence. It's the most important bilateral relationship we have. It's our neighborhood. We are thankful for their support, be it financial, be it in education, agriculture, military, in all aspects of our governance. They have been, and same goes to us. We are there for China as well. So I see that this relationship will only strengthen with time. And we are lucky to be partners with them because China is not going anywhere apart from going up. China is the future of the world, and we are their partners. So Pakistan-China friendship, Zindabad, and thank you. It was an honor to be here and speak to you on this very important subject. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rana Ehsan, for enlightening us on the successful governance system developed under CPC leadership and the continued policy innovation. Now we are coming toward conclusion of today's very enriching discussion. So I would like to invite Ambassador Johar Salim for the concluding remarks and vote of thanks.
Thank you. We had such a brilliant session today with all our eminent speakers. SAPM Rana Ehsan Afzal Saab, our dear ambassadors, Mr. Shi from the Chinese Embassy, Professor Gao, everyone. I think the insights that they brought to the subject have added a great deal of value to this discussion. At the core of it, the underlying message is that political systems are a means to an end. They are not an end in themselves. They're there for the people Politics is for people. People are not for politics, in the sense that sometimes it has happened in the history of many developing countries that people become a hostage to the politics of the countries. And that is a great lesson from China. Good governance, people-centric governance, with very clear objectives. What are those objectives? Bringing about order, security, peace, prosperity, a society where there will be equal opportunity, a society where people would have the best possible chance for self-development, as well as contributing to the national development. And that is what China has proven under the CPC's 105 years. As I said, meritocracy has been the key, but a meritocracy, as Professor Gao said, with the people's touch, people-centric governance. And I would say a people-centric foreign policy. A country which is not just achieved tremendously for the people, but also contributed greatly to the global peace and development. China has been the engine of growth for the entire world for decades now, and will continue to be that. China has been a factor of peace and stability for the world. China has been a factor of development for the world. BRI is a testament to that. As our eminent speakers deliberated in detail, there are lessons not just for Pakistan, but for many, many developing countries. Because we learn from each other. Being iron brothers, being all-weather strategic cooperative partners, being partners in regional peace, in regional security, in global peace, global security. We have tremendous potential in Pakistan, but that potential can only be realized if we are able to build a society with equal opportunity. If we are able to build a society, justice, merit, a society where we could root out corruption. President Xi Jinping, when he took power, he went after the corrupt, exemplary punishments. And that has tremendously helped the process of development in China, in continuing that process, in intensifying that process, in accelerating that process. And this idea now of a high quality development, it's a great idea. It's based on what? You invest in your people, you invest this in their skills, in their education, in their health. And I believe that that opens new avenues of partnership for Pakistan as well. As China enters that phase, as China acquires the leadership of many of the emerging technologies, there's a lot of space for Pakistan as a partner, not just in terms of relocation of intermediate industries, but also in terms of leapfrogging. And we need that. Pakistan needs a country of 245 million people, one of the youngest populations in the world. But we have challenges of poverty, underdevelopment, of illiteracy, 30 million children are still out of school in Pakistan. Stunted growth is being faced by half of our growing population. We are not able to provide jobs to so many of our youth who have to then leave the country and go elsewhere. Last year's figures, Pakistan had the highest number of people emigrating in the world. We have to focus on skill development. We have to focus on good governance. We have to focus on rooting out corruption. We have to focus on providing service delivery at the doorstep of the people. And I saw that in China. I visited some, at the grassroots level. They have a model where, the core issues of citizenry are taken care at the grassroots levels. They don't have to go anywhere. The government comes to them. That is the model we have to adopt. So with these words, distinguished audience, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to once again congratulate China on this 105th anniversary of the establishment of an institution which has not just transformed China, but also has had profound footprints on the world. And those are benign footprints. And I'd like to thank all our eminent speakers today who were here, who shared their ideas, their thoughts, their insights. And now, at the culmination of it all, I'd like to invite you all to join me in a big hand of applause for our speakers today. I thank you all.
Thank you all the participants and our distinguished panelists. May I request all the panelists to come forward for a group photo? All the participants and guests are requested to join us for lunch outside, served in the lobby.